When painting green skins for Warhammer Age of Sigmar or Warhammer 40,000, there are loads and loads of different tones that you can pick from. But in this video, we're going to show you a really nice olive green one. And to do this, you can start from any undercoat colour that you like. But for my miniature, which is a Savage Auric we're going to use for the example here, I've chosen Mechanica Standard Grey Spray just because it's a nice and clear colour, so you'll easily see what I'm doing. Now the first base paint that we need is Deathworld Forest, which I'm going to be applying using a medium base brush, but depending on the miniature that you're painting, you want to switch brush appropriate to the kind of size area that you're painting here. But this is a good one for what I'm doing here. What we need to do is get some of that paint ready, thin down with a touch of water, so it's nice and smooth. There we go. And it's just a matter to start out with, just base coating this colour all over the skin, making sure to work it into all the nooks and crannies as you go. Once the base coat's applied, you're then ready to move on to the next stage by adding depth to the miniature using a shade, and for this we're going to use Beltane Green. I'm going to be applying this using a medium shade brush because once again it's a really good size for the kind of area that we're covering here, and again I'm going to use the palette, though with shade you don't need to water it down, it's just a good idea to get into the habit of doing this so you can control exactly how much you're applying to the miniature at once. But to begin with we want quite a lot, and all you need to do is just run this all over the skin so it settles in all the recessed detail, and once you've applied it all over the flesh, give it about half an hour to dry. Once the shade is completely dry, you're then ready to move on to starting to brighten the skin up by starting out with a layer of Elysian Green. Now when you're doing this, what I recommend you use is a medium layer brush or a small layer brush if you want a little bit more control, but you should go into this expecting to be applying 2 coats of this colour, which is ideal really. Being a layer paint, it is a little bit transparent, so what we're going to do is take advantage of that. So get them onto your palette and thin it down with some water, there we go, so it's nice and translucent like that. And we're trying to get this so that when we apply it, you can see through it, and you can test it on your palette by just looking for some darker paint. If you paint it across that in the palette, you can see the colour through it. So we know we've got the ideal kind of texture here. So what we're looking to do is to paint this onto the flatter areas of the muscle, but avoiding the recesses where the shade settled. So for example, around this arm just here, what I do is follow that raised muscle along there, and then skip that darker part there in the recess and carry on that side there like that. So this way I'm just really exaggerating the shape of the muscle. Now the good thing about it being transparent is that you can apply a second coat to make the colour stronger in specific areas where you want it to be stronger. So you can see it's dried quite quickly there. What I can then do is go on a second coat and just move a bit further away from that recess there like that, thereby making the colour a little bit stronger and lighter up there, getting a really nice transition from the raised areas to the darker areas. I finished the layering stage now, and you can see it's really brought out nice smooth highlights on the skin, and what we need to do now is just finish it off with a sharper highlight using Ogrin Camo. Now for this what we need is a small layer brush for a bit more control, but preparing the paint is just the same as previous steps. So to get a little bit of this onto your palette, and remember dilute it to really take advantage of the transparency of the layer paint. So you want this to be quite see-through. So there we go, really thin it down, looks about good, just test it on the palette, yeah, it looks about right to me. Okay, so what we're looking to do first of all is to pick out sharper, more defined features, and on the face there's lots of examples of that. We're looking at areas such as going on the top of the nose, so you just follow along that edge there like that and down the middle. Then there'll be things such as the brows, so just along there, and then down the side of the head we've got the cheekbone along there, and of course these stronger lines that are running down the side of the mouth, so just down there and along there, and down the very side of the mouth there like that. So by doing this, you see, you're just really starting to bring out the expression on the miniature's face. Now for the muscles where it's a bit smoother, for this what we need to do is just really sort of exaggerate where the light's catching them really. So remember the paint is quite thin and transparent. We're going to take advantage of that by looking at the muscles here and looking where the light catches. So we just paint a highlight just running along there, for example, along there, just a bit running down the side there, and on this muscle we've actually got a slight dip in the middle there, so we're going to take advantage of that by just painting a highlight along there and one along there. And with that highlight applied, the skin's now looking really good, and in fact you could leave it here if you wanted to, but what we're going to do now is show you a few additional details you could add if you want to, which works really well for things like characters like your army general for example. What we're going to do is add an additional highlight first of all using Shouty Bone, and this is going to be a very fine highlight to really bring out key features of the miniature. So using a small layer brush for this, you just need a small amount of this paint, and as before you just need to make sure it's nicely diluted so it's got that nice transparency to it. So there you see it's quite runny, but it's important that you don't put on too much at once, so just use some tissue to get rid of the excess paint, load up again so you only have a small amount on there. And as I say, we're looking for key features on it, so if you really think about the face, we're looking to mostly follow the bone structure of it. So that would be things such as the back of the jaw, so just a little bit at the back there like that, a little bit going underneath there as well, and also we can pick out some features on the face to give it texture. So the lower lip for example, what we could do is just paint some little vertical lines like this which gives that impression of that texture running along there. We can also help bring out the mouth a bit more by just following around these little points just along there. And we've also got to the top of the nose, so all the while it's just these very small parts that are standing out on the face, just lifting them out a little bit more, just to really bring out the expression of the miniature. And there we are, I've applied that fine highlight and you can see it really helps bring out the expression on the face. And what we're going to do now is paint in the eyes for the miniature to add a little bit more life to it. And to do this, what we're going to do is start out with some Stegadon Scale Green, and then we'll move on to Caribou Crimson, followed by Wild Rider Red. Now for Stegadon Scale Green, what we're going to do is darken down underneath the eyes. So for this, using your small airbrush once more, you just need a small amount of this. Dilute it down with some water so it's nice and thin. There we go, a little bit more than that. There we go, so it's quite runny like that. And then make sure you've only got a small amount on your brush. And what we're going to do is just run this over the lower eyelids just to darken those down. So I'll start on this side. You can see the highlight showing there. What I want to do is just run over that whole area up to the recess beneath it, just to darken down the area there like that. Next, we just need to darken down the eye and actually tint it with a little bit of red by using Caribou Crimson. So again, with a small airbrush, what we're going to do is just run this paint into the whole socket of the eye and over the eyeball itself. So just in that little area like that. You need a small amount. Be careful not to put on too much at once so that you don't lose control of it. And then finish off the eyes with a dot of Wild Rider Red applied in the very centre of the eye socket. And for this, just brace your hands as steady as possible and just touch the brush to the surface, just picking out the area there like that. Now this of course is a very small detail, so I recommend using the smallest brush you have. In this case I'm using an extra small Artificer layer brush. And there we are, with the eyes painted in, you can see it's really helped bring this auric to life. Now this technique can be applied of course to any sort of green skin miniature that you want to paint, be that Orcs in Warhammer 40,000, Oryx in Age of Sigmar, or even some Grots, whatever you want to paint really. But we really hope you found this video interesting and informative, and we'll see you all again very soon.